More NASCAR content? For all the latest in NASCAR, including driver interviews, race recaps, fantasy NASCAR, listener call-in shows, and awesome giveaways, tune in to the Lap Traffic Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site with new shows every Tuesday night. Check out Lap Traffic on the web, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, and follow on Twitter at LapTrafficPC. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!
With the ButtKicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. ButtKicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Full Send Racing Series. Tonight, the drivers on Tuesday ready to take the trucks to the three-story roller coaster of Dover. Drivers going up, down, and all around to survive the concrete jungle that they're about to go forward. This tonight is going to be the Testicular Cancer Awareness 200, as April is the Testicular Cancer Awareness Month for these drivers. Certainly going to be a mouthful, and it's presented by the Lap Traffic Podcast. As drivers are prepared, we're also ready. As practice is almost done, we're about to get to one of the most crucial aspects of this race, potentially qualifying in just a few seconds. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Trevor Earhart. Trevor, we're ready for a long race, the longest Dover race in the history of the Full Send Racing Series.
200 laps around Dover here tonight. Sam's going to be a long, grueling test for the drivers. It's all going to get started, though, in qualifying. Like you mentioned, it's going to be the most important part. As you were telling me right before we went live that every Dover race they've run here, it's been won by the pole sitters. So getting that pole position is going to be key for these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, Dover has been ran every season for the Full Send Racing Series. There are 3 seasons. They've swapped back and forth on what vehicle they've used. They started off in the Xfinity car back in season 1, where again, pole sitter got the most laps led and won the race. Just showing how important it's going to be to have that clean air. Who will have that lead position, though? It's time to find out as drivers are hitting the track and getting ready. They're going to have 2 laps, 5 minutes total to finish out those 2 laps. And whatever your fastest time is will be where you're placed on the leaderboards. The pole award, some drivers looking for their first. We've got a long list of drivers, though, that are tied at 2 poles this season. The question is, who's going to topple that board? You got 4 drivers, being John Dart, Zach Hull, Cameron Sarden, and Cole Sacchetti, all with 2 poles. Then we've also got 5 other drivers, with 1 being Ken Campbell, Travis Dart, Andrew Medlin, Chris Stitz, and Ross Tatum with 1 pole themselves, who might be able to steal the boards, because we've seen Andrew Medlin and Cole Sacchetti both win at this track before. And can they get it done again, as drivers seeing that board starting to get full and filled, as it's the 42 top of the board currently.
And no surprise to see Cole Sacchetti up at the top of the board. He absolutely loves this racetrack. Won it in the Xfinity car last season in a race that we weren't able to cover, but got the win last season, currently on pole. But just like that, Travis Dart in the 26 goes top of the charts. Now make that Ken Campbell, Andrew Medlin, the teammates go 1-2.
Ken Campbell has been very fast at this track before. He's been second fiddle back in season 1. Does not want to be caught up in that same situation. Also, fill-in driver going to be that of Brian Cole, going to be coming into second place as he's riding in on for that of Brian Wilson, who's not going to be able to race tonight. Philip Chavez in the 101 after his times are done, only able to get up to that of 12th. But here comes a driver that's been looking for a lot of speed. Zach Hall for his last time out of turn number 4, grazing the wall, but will it count? Because if you touch the wall, it could negate your time, and it's not good enough for the pole, but good enough for at least 5th place. As here comes Sam Siegel, and as well, another driver that we've got to keep our eyes on, 77, Kyle Carpenter, about to be starting up his first lap. Here we go, first lap in for the 55 Sam Siegel. It's going to be a 23.440, the slowest out of everyone so far. But Trevor, got to move our eyes to the 77, who is on the bubble spot with 2 races coming tonight left in the regular season.
Yeah, Carpenter comes in tonight plus 35 to the good on that cutoff line to Andrew Medlin in the 12 machine. Right now, Medlin qualified P3 as they sit So it's going to come down to what can Carpenter do here. Looks like the first lap for himself, getting ready to complete that. Didn't get quite to the bottom there in 3 and 4. That might cost him a little bit, but maybe setting up for the second lap. This is his first lap comes in and only good for 18th quickest there, Sam.
Also, an update on Sam Siegel. He was able to come in 14th with his last time that he put in. Charles Hugel, Kyle Carpenter, where are they going to be placed? They're both on their final lap in the 77 through 3 and 4, trying to hit his mark, staying low off the exit of the corner, stay off the wall and across the line. Kyle Carpenter's final lap, not going to be good enough for anyone up top, but he'll at least get 10th place. And here comes the 24. Cameron Sarton, a driver that is still searching, crazy to think, looking for the win this season. Can he find it here tonight?
Yeah, it's just hard to think that we're almost in the playoffs. 14 races in here tonight, and Cameron Sarton still doesn't have a win this season, and it hasn't been from a lack of trying. It's been mistakes being made, getting caught up in other people's incidents that's kept this 24 out of victory lane. First lap across for himself at 23.2. Good enough for 18th place right now, but we'll see if he can pick up a little bit. We saw what Kyle Carpenter was able to do, went from 18th to 10th. Can Cameron Sarton find a little bit more and get further on up than 10th place as he crosses the line?
Cross the line, time is in, and he'll bump up into our top 10. It's 8th place for the 24. Last drivers on track, the 3 of Ryan Lynch. Always waits to be one of the last drivers to come across. John Dart's going to be moving up to 14th with his final time. And Ryan Lynch, not very much advancement after his last lap. He had some complications there as the 3 only able to get up to 21st position. And also another driver of note, Chris Stitz, back to racing after he took last week off. It's good to see the 17 back, but he was not able to get his final times validated. He smashed the wall off the exit of turn 4, coming to his last lap and validating his first and second time. So 17 will be starting in the back half of the field as qualifying is done. And if you look at the numbers, these last 3 seasons, the pole sitter has the most laps led and wins the race. Can Ken Campbell make it 4 seasons in 4 in a row here at Dover for those on that stat of can we see that number continue on as the 15 takes the pole? Fill-in driver for the 9, Brian Cole, going to be in second. Andrew Medlin going to be in third. Travis Dart, 4th place. Zach Hall, who's been on a tear recently, going to be in 5th. Nick Holland, 6th. 7th, Cole Sketty. Cameron Sarton, 8th. 9th is Ross Tatum. And Joshua Altus finishing out your top 10.
Kyle Carpenter will roll off in 11th with Austin Call in 12th. Jonathan Woods in 13th. John Dart in 14th. Jonathan Casebeer 15th. Nick Gould will roll off 16th with Sam Siegel in 17th. Philip Chavez in 18th with Christopher Wade in 19th. Charles Hugel 20th. Ryan Lynch 21st. Will Bustler will roll off 22nd. And then Chris Stitz will be our final qualifier in 23rd position.
And big shout out to the 000 Steve Benjamin, who will be our race control for tonight's race. Dover, a track that is so tough that drivers struggle with that most weeks, and we're actually going to get a quick preview because we're going to be coming back to this track in just that of a week for our Monday series as they're getting ready in the middle of their playoffs. But here for the Full Send Racing Series tonight and next week at Talladega, the last 2 races of the regular season. Trevor, certainly the stress is building up for these drivers because Kyle Carpenter's fate really lies in the fact of if any of the drivers that are below him in points get a win, they will be bouncing him out of our playoff spot.
I mean, you look at who's below Andrew Medlin down there, only 35 points back. Travis Dart, we've seen have speed, periodically throughout the season at some races. I'm sure he's been in a lot of practice here at Dover tonight, qualified P4, so he's got a chance to do that. Ryan Lynch, we've seen have speed as well, but I think, Sam, if you're sweating any race, it's going to be next week at Talladega for the cutoff race, but you got to get good points here tonight. Dover's not an easy track to have a clean race at.
It certainly is not. This is the longest Dover race that's ever been ran in the Full Send Racing Series. 200 laps, 200 miles as the drivers get rolling off. Trevor, I know I touched on it, the fact that clean air is so important for the drivers that have won in the past here, but what are some of the other keys these drivers are looking for as they also have our stage break at the end of lap 60?
Clean air and then tire conservation. I mean, Dover is notorious for eating up the right front tire, and so you're going to have to take care of that right front all night long, especially on green flag runs. And you got to stay out of the wall. Really easy to get into the wall out of turn number 2, out of turn number 4 as well, or get loose out of either one of those corners on new tires. So you're gonna have to be careful on cold tires and then take it easy on old tires. Make sure you save enough to keep it out of that outside wall.
Keep it out of the wall, keep it clean, make it to the end as drivers aiming for the stage break. Again, at the end of lap 60 will be our stage break. 200 laps in total for the night as the drivers roll out of turn number 4 into the restart zone. And we are green here at Dover as it's going to be Ken Campbell, Brian Cole, and Brian losing time as it's the teammates going down into turn number 1.
Medlin trying to get that second spot away from Brian Cole, and the 9 machine is going to get him cleared halfway through turn number 1 out of turn number 2. Cole trying to get a good run on that top line, just kind of still there, didn't allow that of Medlin to pull up in front of him, but now Medlin clears that right behind his teammate now, so move Medlin up to first. Cole back to that of third. Zach Hall stays in fourth, and everybody's starting to single file out.
Single filing out. One driver having some issues off the exit turn 4. That's going to be Charles Hugel back in 23rd position, but he keeps it running as up front. It's all in line, single file racing in just one lap. It's Ken Campbell in a very good spot. The question is, will we see any team swappage working on here? It seems to be for the past almost month, Trevor, it's been all about trying to figure out for Freaking Fast Racing to get Andrew Medlin a win. We've seen plenty of great opportunities, and some of them have failed miserably. Can tonight be that night for them, or could we see the fill-in driver, Brian Cole, play a little bit of spoiler tonight?
I mean, anything's possible here tonight, Sam. Brian Cole looks strong here early on in this run. Grant, we're just now completing lap number 4, but keeping pace with those two. And for Ken Campbell, I mean, he has been the rear gunner for Andrew Medlin for pretty much the last 4 weeks or so, going back to Pocono, and it's not worked out for either one of them. Usually Ken Campbell ends up in an incident, and Medlin, by just pit strategy, hasn't come away with a win. But Medlin putting on a little bit of a pressure there to his teammate coming out of turn number 4, seeing if he can find that lead position.
On the lead position, 5 laps in, and already Ken Campbell's led all 5 laps. Top 3 trying to pull away as we are seeing a little bit of change in action for 4th place as Travis Dart has gotten by Zach Hall. Decided just to lift out of that situation. And 2 very different styles of racing. Nick Holland, who has been, I feel like, the aggressor at times these last couple of weeks, trying to be aggressive now for 4th. That's the 68, takes that position with ease. As Travis Dart did not want to put a fight at all.
Travis probably not wanting to, or maybe feel like if he races Nick there, might burn up his equipment a little bit quicker than he would like to. Travis, one of those drivers that we've seen have speed in the short run. He just struggles in the long run, so maybe thinking the long game here is Nick Holland just continues on this offensive charge, drives to the inside of the 9 of Brian Cole. This is going to be for 3rd position. Cole drifts up a little bit, gives that position up to Nick. Nick not wasting any time here, Sam, going straight after the 12 of Andrew Medlin.
And Andrew Medlin trying to think a little bit defensive there. He's putting too much of a heavy block on the 68, but just not enough momentum. Try to throw it down on the entry, but the exit of 4 is where Nick Holland has been dominant as he gets a fabulous run once again. That's 3 laps in a row where he has been picture perfect off the exit of 4. And I think we're already starting to notice where drivers feel like they really need to let off and save their tires, as with these passes that Nick Holland's making, it's given that Brian Cole the opportunity to get underneath these top 2 contenders. The 15 and the 12 already saying, hey, just go on ahead, use up those tires, we'll wait for later on.
Yeah, just let the 68 and the 9 go by. Luckily for them, Travis Dart kind of cut them both a little bit of a break, let them back in line, or otherwise they could have fallen back a couple of more positions with them being stuck on the outside. But just losing the 2 positions,
Caution.
those 2, and
That's
caution's
right.
out.
It's Philip Chavez in the 101. Blown engine for himself. And with how fast these drivers are rolling around here at Dover, it is a very well-known thing that if you hit the wall just wrong, it can shoot you out to the inside wall and get a blown engine that way. But there are plenty of different opportunities and ways, as we're getting the replay here, on how you can find some major trouble. The 101 is going to be shown here shortly on how to lose an engine quickly. And now being 10 laps in, this could be a very interesting moment for drivers. It might be a little bit too early to come into pit road and take tires, but here is what brought out our first caution of the day.
It looks like Philip just got a really good launch out of turn number 2 on exit and kind of got up into the the left side there of Jonathan Casebeer. Maybe Casebeer came down a little bit, but you can just see how it shot Philip Chavez down into the inside wall and a violent hit for the 101 machine. Just like that, blown motor for Philip, and he'll have to spend some extended time on pit road trying to get that engine repaired.
And luckily for that, the 101 able to coast his way into pit road. One driver, though, as we take it on board and take another look at this, is right on board with Philip Chavez. You can see Abe hits the apron, gets loose, and then just tries to correct it and kind of tail slaps the 101. And just like that, in an instant, you're seeing a driver caught up in a wreck that could be race ending for himself. And the strategy calls I was thinking about, Chris Stitz in 17 taking the strategy call. These drivers have 4 sets of tires in pit road to work with. The 17 going to be using the first set of the race, but he'll be the only driver back in 22nd position.
Interesting call there from Stitz to come down and take a set this early on. They have 4 extra sets of tires, so go ahead and using 10 laps into the race, I think might be a little risky, especially if we see a late race caution. But could be thinking about the stage points. Does already have a win this season, so if he could come up here in this, or has a couple of wins this season, if this thing stays green to the stage same, this might work out well for him in terms of stage points.
That it really could, and trying to aim Chris Stitz fighting for the points regular season championship between himself, Zach Hall, and Ross Tatum. Those 3 drivers all fighting. I mean, Zach Hall seems to be the most comfortable when you look at those points, as he's got 4 wins compared to Chris Stitz's 2. But 17 trying different strategies to help himself here. But this track, Dover, it is a mile in length. It's certainly got, as you can see there, wild bankings that they are dealing with in the corners. It's 24 degrees of banking in the corners, 9 degrees of banking on the straightaway, and certainly call it a roller coaster because of how much you are changing up and down. And Trevor, I know you've raced at Dover plenty of times. This track certainly a handful in any car that you're racing in.
It definitely is. I mean, you come out of the corner, especially out of turn number 2 and turn number 4, you kind of go up a little bit of a hill onto the straightaway, and that can really throw you off depending on how much will you have into the truck. You can get it really loose, or you can just plow into the outside wall on both ends. And then with the banking, same. I mean, it's banked all the way around, even on the straightaway. So if there's a wreck, most of the wrecks clean themselves off to the bottom of the racetrack. So if you're going to the bottom and you see a wreck in front of you, there's a chance that it's probably going to end up right in front of you by the time you get to it.
That is certainly true on that factor, and I cannot wait to see how the end of this race is going to hit these drivers, because I think the one thing that's always interesting about Dover, as if we look at the past, the last time these drivers were here last season, there were 8 cautions, got to see a couple of long green flag runs, as well as back in season 2, they only had 2 cautions, and back in season 1, they had 8 as well. So if we're looking at the trends, it looks to be more of the trucks a lot easier on the long run aspect, so we might be able to get some good long run racing, but we'll see if that's possible. Or could we see with Xfinity cars, whenever they're running in the Full Sun Racing Series, bringing out caution flags a lot, as we are stacked up ready to go. Hitting the backstretch, it's going to be Nick Holland, Brian Cole, as Cole's going to get another chance on being on the outside on this restart for the 9 machine, as he qualified second. And we'll see what Nick Holland on those tires, what they're looking like. That second row going to be the teammates of Ken Campbell and Andrew Medlin. Travis Dart, Cole Sketty going to be in row number 3 as we're ready for this restart. As they're getting into the restart zone, pace car pulls off, as it is time for us here at Dover to go back to green flag racing for the Testicular Cancer Awareness 200, presented by that of the Lap Traffic Podcast. And we are green as Nick Holland takes off into turn number 1.
Had a really good restart there, cleared the 9 of Brian Cole, and Cole had a good restart as well, was able to clear the teammates of Ken Campbell and Andrew Medlin, who are still side by side. Now Campbell's going to clear that. That's going to allow Cole Sketty now to get a good run to the inside of the 12 of Medlin. This is going to be a battle for that of 4th and 5th position, as Cole tries to get that position away from the 12 machine, and Medlin just going to be stuck on the outside, really going to have no fight in this, especially off of turn number 4, and Cole Sketty going to get that position away.
In line, and just see where you can ride. If drivers are willing to be aggressive, might want to still let them take off. But at some point, you also have to keep in mind of the drivers deeper in the field. Is that call could be letting Ross Tatum, Cameron Sarton move forward? big thing is Chris Stitz. What is the 17 going to have? Because he restarted in 22nd position just in 2 laps. He's up to 16th place. The 17 is on the move.
And using the outside line too with that, Sam. So with those fresh tires, has the grip on the outside and keep the power down and keep the momentum up. But right now, he's got an issue right in front of him. It's 99 of John Dart, the 2 of Jonathan Wood battling side by side right in front of him. So nowhere to go for Stitz on those fresh tires. He's going to have to kind of wait this out, but not wasting any time on those 4 fresh tires trying to make his way through this field.
There for a moment, testing if you want to go 3 wide, thought better of it, and going to just stay in the lane side by side, 3 rows deep almost, as it's going to be the 99 of John Dart, still trying to get by Jonathan Woods, finally able to clear. And this is the problem for Stitz, is now they're finally clear. He just wasted 3 very good laps, staying on the outside. Those tires, yes, they're fresher. Yes, he's probably going to still have some good power with them. But there's going to be a much quicker, steep plateau and equalization once he gets up front.
Yeah, I think spending those 3 laps to the outside there of Jonathan Woods is going to take a little bit of life out of those tires for himself, and by the time he gets up to the front, might kind of plateau with everybody else that's up there that, especially when you look at Medlin, Campbell, Zach Hall, drivers that we know are probably saving tires, that might be where he really struggles trying to get by those drivers.
You see the driver down below as it's going to be the 2-time champ trying to make the move for himself, but it's the battle for 3rd. Joshua Altus, good to see the 94 back racing as he is applied in the middle of the season. Originally was a fill-in driver for a couple of different teams. Majority of the time was helping out with Ambush Racing. Decided to go part-time. So he's able to show up whenever he wants and rock his own number, and it's good to see Altus back out on track, up to 3rd, and currently right now the 2nd fastest car on track besides that of our leader.
Yeah, they do running really good lap times. Got around that of Cole Sketti, up 7 spots from where he started. Started in 10th, up to 3rd. So making pretty good moves through the field. The 2nd biggest mover of the night, actually. The biggest mover of the night, if you don't count Chris Stitz, who's on 4 fresh tires. Stitz now up to that of 10th, Sam. He is coming quickly up through the field.
That last lap was 4/10, almost 5/10 faster than our leaders in the 17. Just showing 10 laps difference on tires. Massive difference. This is going to be a big talking point as we move forward, as we're riding on the back of the 26 of Travis Dart. And to see the 17 lurking and waiting patiently. I think this is a much better call. Just stay below. Stay low. Follow the natural progression on how you're getting by some of these other drivers. And then be aggressive, which is exactly what the 17's approach has been. Here we go. Finally, we've seen some clearance, but fully enough space to make this pass just yet on the 26.
Now kind of stuck here behind the 21 of Ross Tatum there. Has a little bit more corner speed than everybody else around him. Problem is he just has nowhere to go with it. Is a little bit of wall contact for the 24 of Cameron Sarton, who's going to try to go around the outside of Ken Campbell right in front of this little battle. And Stitz finally able to clear the 26 of Travis Dart. Now can try to figure out how he's going to get around that of Ross Tatum. But if I'm Stitz here, Sam, I'd be following that of the 21 machine. Use him as a wedge to get through some of these slower trucks.
That's exactly what he's doing, but if he waits too long, we're 24 laps in. We're closing in on the halfway of our stage break. Stage break officially at the end of lap 60. Right on board the 12 of Andrew Medlin. In front of him, though, is Cole Sacchetti. Sacchetti won this race last season in such a dominant fashion, led 121 laps of 170. He knows certainly how to get up front and be dominant, but Chris Stitz, tonight's going to be a big thing with though taking that extra set of tires. The points are so massive to grab. He needs to at least finish in the top 3 if he's going for this approach to gain as many stage points as possible.
Yeah, he's going to need to get up there. The issue is, though, looking up in front of them. I mean, Cole Sacchetti's not too far in front of him, but then it's a 3-second gap from that of Sacchetti up to it's a 2-second gap from Sacchetti to Joshua Altus, and then a 3-second gap from Sacchetti all the way to Nick Holland, who's our current race leader. So Stitz, if he wants to get up there, Sam, he's going to get past the first Ross Tatum, then by Medlin and Sacchetti, and then try to run those guys down, and the laps are just continuing to click away.
They certainly are continuing at that, as you're seeing 17 utilize the outside lane. Still enough freshness in the tires to make that type of a move work. And here's going to be some clean air. This is going to be a good sense on these next couple of laps on what the speed difference is for the 17, as he's adding out that of 11 laps classic green flag racing on these tires. Now going to be in that warp already built in. How much wear and tear is there as we look at the last lap and his best lap that he's put on so far?
I'm not sure how well or how much tire life he's going to have left by the time he gets through that of Cole Sacchetti, Andrew Medlin, to really run down that of Joshua Altus, Brian Cole, and Nick Holland. I think maybe it'll plateau out looking at his last lap time there, saying at 24.17. I mean, he's still 4/10 quicker than that of Nick Holland, but only about 2/10 quicker than that of Brian Cole and Cole Sacchetti.
Saw that puff of smoke just grazed the wall with 17. As he's catching up to Andrew Medlin, not expecting much, but for the lead, we're expecting some heavy pressure as Brian Cole filling in for Brian Wilson, not able to race here tonight. Cole is putting down some gears the last couple of laps. We saw Nick Holland willing to be aggressive when he made that push to get to the lead spot. And Trevor, it seems like it's at this point we're seeing the backfire as we are now 30 laps officially put down here as we're still having our stage break at the end of lap 60.
Yeah, I think Nick's starting to feel the effects of feeling the effects on the tires about how aggressive he was there at the start of the run. Cole pulling him back in here just a little bit, but time's starting to equal out for those two, so I'm not sure if Brian has anything really left to get around Nick Holland, but Holland definitely looks like he's starting to struggle here, Sam.
Starting to show weakness now is Nick Holland. The question is, I mean, yes, he's showing weakness in the fact that he's been caught, but how will Brian Wilson make this pass? It's going to be based off a mistake. Will it be based off of just forcing the issue? It's going to be another point. We'll see if there's going to be a pass later on as we look back into the field. Here's the two of Jonathan Woods. Jonathan Woods, I mean, what a start to the season for himself. One Daytona, but that's been basically the biggest high moment. It's been a lot of just aiming for top 10 finishes, and at some points he's getting it. Other times it's been a lot of misfortune.
Yeah, it's been such an up and down season for him. Had that, like you said, win at Daytona. He's had some strong runs, and you think back to Charlotte, had a chance Charlotte to maybe get a win there before a unfortunate issue under caution kind of took him out of contention in that one. But just trying to find that consistency in finishes, I think, is what Jonathan Woods is trying to do, especially going into the playoffs. Build a little bit of momentum for himself before we get to that first round.
And for Jonathan Woods, he certainly has been strong at the short tracks this season, with 3rd place at Bristol and a 6th place at Richmond. We're looking as well at our number 1 machine, Will Bustler. Bustler, tonight, the one in 15th position, and one of the drivers that I think is just aiming for some type of good momentum as we continue to move forward into the playoffs. He comes in that of 11th in points in a pretty good secure spot of not being bounced to 12th in points as he's trying to race that of Kyle Carpenter, who's behind him currently. So for Will Bustler, his goal, just find momentum before the playoffs in 2 weeks. And for Kyle Carpenter, it is all his hopes and dreams really are going to be based off of how next week's race goes, unless we see one of our contenders that are outside of our top 40 points currently gets a win. That could shake things up for the 77, but Trevor Kyle Carpenter really, he's hoping for just a good night like Will Bustler, but it's going to have a lot more nerves going into next week.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of nerves going into next week. Just needs a clean, consistent finish. I'm sure he'd like to get some stage points, but I see a little bit of right side damage on that 77 machine. And so he might have gotten into the wall, and that in 16th position here, not looking like he's going to get stage points. As now we look at the 53 of Christopher Wade, who has a win at that of Eldora, but running back here in 17th position, just having himself a quiet little Tuesday night drive.
No, it's quite a little night for the 53, and at this point, it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, it doesn't feel like he's got the speed to run for that of a win, at least here tonight. But I'm looking at the lap times here, Trevor, and the 53 starting to find a little bit of speed here. Seems like he's going with a lot more of a save aggressive mentality instead of being just trying to run a consistent lap over and over again. Unlike Nick Holland, who did the complete opposite and was just completely aggressive at the beginning of the run, and now is in a very defensive type of mode for the 68.
Yeah, kind of two different driving styles. One, just kind of take it easy, take what you can get, work your way through, and that's kind of what Christopher Wade has done. He started down at 19th, up 2 spots, but you look like you were talking about Nick Holland up 5 spots from where he started with how aggressive he was, and now kind of just trying to defend everything he can from that of Brian Cole. But that's kind of the two different driving styles you get here at Dover. You get the aggressive drivers to start the race, or the guys that really like to save their tires.
Nick Gould, one of the few drivers that is going to be one of the last drivers, I'm looking at the list, that's going to be eligible for a win in your in circumstance going into next week. He's not been showing any real good pace at these short tracks, and for the 14, this is not looking great for points. But again, his ultimate goal was just to show up for today's race and next week's race. That will give him the eligibility of, if he wins next week, he will be into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of these guys that came in outside of that cutoff line behind Kyle Carpenter, you just needed to show up tonight. You see what you can get out of it when you go into Talladega next week. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of aggression, especially from the guys outside of that cut line in the playoffs.
We're seeing side-by-side action. This is just outside of our top 10. Travis Dart as well as Jonathan Woods keeping it racing. Travis Dart, I hate to say it, that this feels like it's been every week. The 26 qualifies well up inside the top 10 and then falls back. And it looks like we're seeing the same tale of the tape here of just struggling to keep the consistency on the momentum, but at least able to defend there from Jonathan Woods on that attempt.
And look at his lap time. I mean, 3 tenths off of what our leader Nick Holland was running, and Travis was saving there just a little bit to start the run. We saw him let guys by, in contrast to what Nick was doing, and still burned up his tires a little bit quicker than those drivers around him. So definitely going to have to learn from what he's done wrong here in the first stage, or here in the stage, and try to recover from that once we get past the stage.
Andrew Medlin, 13th place in points in a must-win scenario, and he's actually in the unique spot of, because of the fact that he has not made the minimum amount of races for a win in circumstance to count. If he's outside of the top 16, he would be in a terrible spot coming into tonight and next week. But because he's in such a great position, points-wise at 12, if he wins here tonight or wins tomorrow, wins that of next week, the 12 would be pushing out Kyle Carpenter. But the two-time champ, Cameron Sarton, he is rolling in ninth position. He's only gone down 1 spot, but in the right grouping, I would say, of drivers that have all been in the let's just test and see what we've got type of a field of let's just conserve our tires and see what the tires really look like after this first stage.
Yeah, in that position, got around Zach, or he moved up a little bit, Sam, and then kind of falling back here just a tad bit, ready to look to the inside. I believe that's going to be in the 15, King Campbell. I'm sorry, it's going to be the 12 of Andrew Medlin, but has to fall back in line behind him as we're on board with the 15 of King Campbell, looking back at his teammate Andrew Medlin. You see start running a little bit higher line, and then Zach Hall looking underneath that 24 machine, see if he can get that position by. You see the kind of different lines that drivers are taking right there. Campbell and Medlin kind of toward the bottom. Sarton was running the higher line in 1 and 2 to see if he could kind of diamond that and get a better run off.
Trying to find all the places that you can gain speed and different driving styles for sure. Got one of those with the diamonding inch going into the corner aggressively, hitting your apex, and then trying to straighten out as soon as possible, hitting the back stretch, and almost some contact there. The 17 of Chris Stitz, Joshua Altis battle for 5th place. Stitz has stalled out, and at this point, he has not been able to move forward. He actually has lost the position since we last looked at the 17. Ross Tatum was able to move forward for the 21 up to 4th. But Stitz is now showing that you can overuse your tires, and he, as well as Altis, being a huge block for the 15 of Ken Campbell.
Yeah, I think Campbell's not feeling the tire wear as much as those two, especially Stitz with how aggressive he was. Altis just trying to find any spot that's kind of safe for himself, going to tuck back in line here behind the 15 of Ken Campbell. Then you got Cameron Sarton and Andrew Medlin side by side right behind him, but Stitz has hit that wall, got passed there by Ross Tatum, and I believe Cole Spetty got back around him. Those two making a little bit of head ground into the gap that the leaders have, but Zach Hall trying to use that outside line to find a way around Cameron Sarton, who's saying he just can't quite figure out how to get by that 24 machine.
Yeah, he can't figure it out at this point, and You've got to figure it out at this time. We're less than 10 laps left in the stage, or stage break at the end of lap 60. And this field is starting to see the differences. Who saved, who didn't. Because drivers that were saving are starting to make some pretty big moves forward. And Josh Waltis and Chris Stitz, very different sides on the, how they got to this position. But they both were very aggressive on their tires and both hurting at this time. The question is, will they stay in the top 10 by the time that this is over, as Stitz continues to brush that outside wall to puff the smoke, getting a little bit more aggressive each time they go on by. Number 12, Andrew Medlin, trying to make the move, not able to confirm it just yet, but Stitz into the wall right in front of Cameron Sargent.
Sargent, I don't think it was, he almost gets a little bit of contact there from Jonathan Woods, as Woods got loose clipping the apron, but I think thankfully for Cameron Sargent, Sam, I don't think he has a lot of damage to the front end of that truck. It just gave a little bit of a bump to Chris Stitz, but Stitz really is showing us, I mean, what can happen to the tires if you are that aggressive for that long. That 17 really struggling now as he's given up even more spots. It was up to 5th at one point, now all the way back to 10th, Sam.
Yeah, and we're starting to see Chris Stitz, it's almost like those tires have melted off with the fact that he just continues to get tighter and tighter off the exit. And I would not be surprised, but if we don't get a caution by the end of this stage, the 17 might be in the wall once again, just based off how the tire wear has been, as it's getting squeezed up and close. And this is all battling for 11th back to 15th is this group that we're seeing right now.
Well, and the other crazy thing is, I mean, he's on 10-lap fresher tires. I mean, everybody else around him has been on those tires for 56 laps. Chris has only been on his for 46, and you can just tell the difference in saving tire with how easy these guys that are on older tires are getting by the 17. As again, he almost gets into the outside wall and checks up the 18 of Austin Call.
And I mean, we keep our cameras on this group from the aerial cam because of the potential of a yellow coming out. If a yellow comes out now, that will be it. And Stitz gets the tap, spun around, and there's the caution we were waiting for as Stitz gets the bumper spun. And Austin Call, it was a stack 3 wide. And I'm not surprised by it. But I mean, Trevor, it's certainly for Stitz, he was trying to hold on for everything, and there just wasn't enough there.
No, he was trying to hold on, and it was kind of a situation of old tires versus older tires, and drivers getting tight. And Austin gets into the left rear there of Chris Stitz, who spins it to the inside wall. Made a little bit of contact with the inside wall of Sam, but it doesn't look too terribly bad for Chris, and thankfully for him, can come down and get 4 fresh tires and get some damage repaired. But problem is, he lost what little track position he had left.
And with that, Nick Holland will be given the stage win for the 68 machine as he goes into pit road. Luckily, the caution came out because Ross Tatum was flying. He was catching up to those drivers. And if that caution had come out, I think the 21 had a very slim chance, but an opportunity to try to steal it away, but not gonna happen. So we'll talk to the 68 once he's done with this pit stop, but bad caution when the timing that it came out. It was an interesting call because it was a stacked 3 wide incident. I believe Austin Call would have been all right, but he got slightly tapped by that of Christopher Wade. That's what made the 18 loose to drift up and finish off Chris Stitz.
Yeah, just looked like one of those instances. Looks like Wade might have clipped the apron just a little bit, got up into Austin, and then Austin kind of bounces up into Stitz, spins Stitz around. But thankfully for our leaders, especially I believe Nick Hall and Brian Cole, able to come down and get those 4 fresh tires. Ross Tatum, though, Sam, no surprise on the long run, being one of the fastest trucks out on track, up to 3rd, and like you said, was running those 2 down. So if this race stays green, I'd watch out for that 21 machine, especially on the long run.
He certainly looks quick, and he's a known driver for having the better long runs. But let's see if we can queue up our stage winner, that being Nick Holland, and see how he's doing with after getting that stage win. Nick in the 68. It's Sam and Trevor up at the booth. You got us?
Yeah, gotcha.
Well, you got the stage win with the caution coming out at the time that it did. I mean, how are you feeling now? This is the track feeling right now.
Yeah, it's feeling interesting. The tire wear was definitely an interesting turn there. It seemed like, I don't know if the guys behind me got into the wall or what, because I was expecting everybody to start running me down, and it looked like I was coming towards the end of the stage. But yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a roller coaster, but just trying to stay consistent.
I mean, Nick, is there anything you learned there in the first 57 laps of this race that you can take with you into the last 140 laps we have here tonight?
Well, the good thing is I don't have anybody to pass in front of me, so hopefully I can save a little bit more tire in the run and see what happens.
Can't wait to see how that goes, Nick. We'll send you back to your team so you can get ready for this restart, but good luck for the rest of the night.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's iRacing driver of Nick Holland, stage winner here tonight. And the driver is getting ready as the stage is over. I mean, Trevor, certainly a very interesting first 60 laps for these guys. They've got to see 2 on-track incidences that have only taken out 2 drivers so far, that being Chris Stitz, still able to run, as Philip Chavez has gotten his repairs fully equipped. He's going to be 20 laps down, though, so still a lot of racing for the 101. But, man, what are your thoughts after those first 60 laps here tonight?
I mean, it kind of not surprised, but a little bit surprised at how the aggression worked out there for Nick Holland. Was able to get to the lead and kind of back off and save the tires, but how well Ross did, saving his tires, working his way back up through the field, and then 2 on-track incidents, Sam, at Dover. That was only 1 vehicle spin. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and I'm sure a lot of drivers are thankful for that there wasn't a big wreck that we typically see at Dover when trucks go sideways.
It's still out there. Who knows if it could happen on this restart, as we are officially done with stage racing. It's all about who's going to get the win here tonight. You got to get to lap 200, get it done. And we've already seen how important tires are going to be, as well as that fresh air. As the pace car pulls off, Nick Holland ready to get the green into the restart zone, as we are back to green flag racing for the Testicular Cancer Awareness 200 here tonight. And it's Nick Holland, Brian Cole sending it down into turn number 1 in the 68. A fabulous launch, but everyone else in that bottom lane went nowhere.
Yeah, that kind of bottom lane didn't go anywhere at all. That allows Brian Cole to hold on to second. It looked like Altus was going to take a little bit of a look to his inside, but gets blocked, and now Altus is going to fall into third. Instantly come under pressure from the 21 of Ross Tatum. Zach Hall kind of looking to the outside, but they fall in line. And a little bit of battling further on back with Jonathan Woods and Travis Dart, as they're the first 2 pairs side by side. But as I say that, 21 of Ross Tatum going to go instantly to the inside here of the 94 of Joshua Altus.
Well, we heard from that Nick Holland interview on the fact that he said he was expecting a lot more drivers to be around him once he got the lead. Not a lot caught up, except for the 21 he was getting a little worried about. And I would say for the majority of this field, you might be very worried, because that first stage, a lot of knowledge has been picked up. You got to see what your tire wear was like. I think we might be seeing a couple of drivers willing to get a little bit more aggressive on the fact of the potential yellows might strike later on, as we're seeing majority of the field in line, single file out, and just settling in until we get about 10 to 15 laps into this run.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on right there. Everybody going to try to settle in, see what happens in these next 10 or so laps, wait for the tire wear to start kicking in before they start making their passes. But I think we'll see a couple of guys be aggressive. I mean, you look for the Cole Socchetti all the way back in 15th. Sam had a horrible pit stop for himself. All the way back here right in front of Chris Stitz, and he's going to have a lot of work to do to get back up to where he was before we had those pit stops.
Mentioned a lot of drivers that had to stay in for extra time on damage repair. Without a cow car, for Cole Socchetti going to be staying in for longer pit stops. Chris Stitz, no surprise after we saw him nose it, being involved with that last wreck. Ryan Lynch, as well as the 3, surprised he had to come to pit road, but obviously got in the wall at some point for himself. Jonathan K-Spear caught up in that first wreck, and plenty of others, luckily with that caution, able to get some repairs done. As you see, that Ken Campbell back in 17th place. It's going to be a long run for himself, but at least he knows he has drivers that can be kind of that spearhead, having that of Cole Socchetti as well as Chris Stitz. See what they want to do on the aggressive level. Do they just stay patient and just let the race come to them? Because up front, it's still Nick Holland leading the way, and Brian Cole willing just to stay in line.
Yeah, again, Cole just following in line. of that 68 of Nick Holland and see if he can save a little bit. I mean, we saw him run him down right before the end of the stage, but then kind of started to fall back a little bit. Might have used his tires up a little bit too much trying to run down Nick Holland, but right now just following right in line. Joshua Altus not too far behind them with Ross Tatum in tow as well. So our top four just all kind of nose to tail riding this out, waiting to see if somebody makes a mistake. It's a little bit too tight on corner exit to get it and then get a run on them. But right now our leader's just playing a game of follow.
Although the leader for our top about 12. Then we fall back to actually that 12th position. There is a little bit of racing action, but it's so hard to pick up when there's going to be a pass happening because we're at that early stage where drivers are willing, hey, if you want to be aggressive, go for it, take off. And that's what the 77 has been gifted, is every time he's poked the nose to show that he wants to make a pass, the driver to his outside just easily lets him go. John Dart, a little bit of a bump off the exit of turn 2, but stays high, lets the 77 go. I mean, this is what it's been like for the last 4 passes for Kyle Carpenter.
Yeah, just showing that he's wanting to move forward. He's got to close in on Andrew Medlin. Medlin got some stage points. That of Kyle Carpenter didn't get any stage points, so he's going to close that gap that he has in that bubble position. So trying to get up there, get some points, closing that gap to Andrew Medlin. Again, just goes to the bottom. Cameron Sarton just obliging, lets him by as we get to Andrew Medlin can. And every week, Sam, we go to Andrew Medlin. Every week he's laser focused as he follows his teammate Zach Hall through 1 and 2.
I mean, here tonight you have to be laser focused. Darlington, it is a roller coaster that you control, and at the same time, disaster can strike at any moment. And also to the fact that the drivers are so focused on their tires, you have to be at almost every moment focusing up, making sure that you're concentrated and that you don't overuse your tires. That's exactly what this 12 is doing, as we're seeing those hands really working the wheel, trying to keep it steady, but also trying to keep himself pointed in the right direction off the exit of the corners.
Okay, just trying to make sure that truck is always going straight, not putting too much wheel into it. You see a little bit of movement there as he tries not to get too much wheel into it. Don't want to burn the tires up. Don't let it drift too high on corner exit to get into the wall, and just continue to follow his teammate. Got a little bit of pressure out back behind him from the 26 of Travis Dart, but they all stay in line. As again, just following Zach down the back straightaway, taking it nice and easy as this run progresses.
Nice and easy for themselves, and it's where we're good to see these hands being worked in the onboard of Andrew Medlin. We talk about it a lot when we're at super speedways, but visibility, you really can't see anything. And Trevor, that certainly is a very scary feeling when you're at a track like Dover with how tight these exits are.
Yes, I mean, we always talk about in super speedways, when you're tucked up behind another truck, that it's almost impossible to see in front of you. And same thing here at Dover. If the truck in front of the guy you're following gets into the outside wall, I mean, there's no seeing that happening. There's no chance for you to really check up, and that can cause a lot of incidents and issues for the drivers. So you always got to be on your toes, always got to stay vigilant here at Dover, especially how hard it is to see when you got somebody in front of you.
An interesting note, seeing some spotters getting into the race late. That Joshua Altus and Zach Hall both having spotters joining into the race, help them out. Plenty of information can be helpful to be grabbing throughout the night when you get a real life spotter. That's what the 94 and that of the 32 we're going to be having here tonight, as we fall back to Cole Sketty back in 14th place. Had to deal with damage repairs and up to 14th position, but not moving forward in a quick manner. Currently faster than our leaders, which are front two of kind of are starting to stall out, but Cole Sketty staying patient, recognizing it's a long race, anything can happen. We're not even at the halfway point just yet.
No, not to the halfway point yet. And kind of weird from Cole Sketty to see him being patient. Sam, usually he's one of the drivers that we see be aggressive on the starts and be aggressive throughout a run, but maybe taking note that, hey, I need to be a little bit more patient here. I'm further back in the pack, save the tires, let everybody fall back to me, and then pick them off later into the run. And right now doing exactly that as he follows Christopher Wade, Travis Dart, and Cameron Sarton. That's 11th all the way back through 14th, and then right behind him he's got Ken Campbell and Chris Stitz kind of doing the same thing.
Certainly is. We're actually going to move our cameras up to the lead because it is getting very close with a lot of drivers right now. Nick Holland and Ryan Cole have been nose to tail for the last 5 laps, but it's that of Joshua Altus, Ross Tatum, Zach Hall, Andrew Medlin. I think this was the aggression that Nick Holland was expecting when he talked about he wasn't wasn't seeing a lot of drivers putting the pressure on. Well, here we go. Joshua Altis making the move on the 9 for second place.
Dives into the inside, see if he can get him cleared here out of turn number 4. Then a little bit tight, but that's going to invite the 21 of Ross Tatum now to get to the inside of the 9 of Brian Cole, and that of Altis going to clear the 9 machine. Now it's going to be Ross Tatum side by side with Cole for third position. He's going to get him cleared, and that's going to bring Zach Hall right there with him, and probably the 12 of Andrew Medlin.
It is just going to be a train of drivers for the 9, and he was in second place, but how far back will he fall? Because everyone is going to be going to the inside lane, and I'm looking at this grouping of drivers. I mean, if this continues, Ryan Cole could fall if he cannot slot in right here, right now in front of Travis Dart. There's the potential he could fall back to even 11th place, but luckily finds that opening he was looking for.
Yeah, finds the space to fall in, but that could have been really bad for him. Could have gone from second, like you said, all the way back to potentially behind Kyle Carpenter down there in 10th position. So Cole thankfully able to find that spot in front of Travis Dart, and now can kind of catch his breath, gather himself back up, and see if he can mount a charge back to the front. But this is going to put Altis up to second, Tatum third, Zach Hall fourth, Medlin up to fifth, and we'll see if they have anything for our leader, Nick Holland.
Nick Holland was being such a warrior on how he was defending that of Brian Cole. I think Cole also recognizing, hey, I'm a fill-in driver, don't want to influence too much into this regular season points race at the end of the season. But how aggressive is Nick Holland willing to be on defending? I'm curious on these thoughts as we continue throughout this run. As fuel-wise, we really didn't worry about it during our stage racing. But Trevor, what was the fuel looking like? I know you got to talk to some of the drivers and get a kind of a window of what we're expecting.
You know, anywhere from laps, around 70 to 73, 74 laps is going to be the fuel run here tonight. Tires might be questionable to go, that far. We could see, depending on how hard you push it, some right front tire failure. They should be able to make it, but if this race goes green, I believe, if my math is correct, they could get it done in one stop, but it would be tight because that'll put them around lap 130. If they can go 72 laps from the time they pit, they'll put them around lap 130, which gives them 70 laps to the end. So this could be a one-stop race if you're good on your fuel mileage.
I do like the fact that you threw out that wariness on the tires, because I really have a feeling with the way we've seen Nick Holland running up front, I just don't see how he's going to be able to run 70 laps without a failure in that right front tire. He's been aggressive, trying to keep up with this lead spot. As you see the differences between first and second place the last 2 laps. It has been Joshua Altis closing in, but the driver that everyone is threatened with, it's the 21 of Ross Tatum that is flying up to our top 2.
Yeah, and this time for Ross Tatum, doesn't have to, try to chase down the leader from about 4 seconds back. He's there only about 5/10 back of the race leaders. He takes a little look to the outside of Joshua Altis. I think he might have gotten a little bit too deep, had to drift up to not run over the 94 machine, but gets a pretty good drive out of turn number 2. Sam might think about a look to the inside, but thinks better of it. Just going to follow that 94 machine through 3 and 4.
Settling in, how do you want to get this mix it out of four? We've seen a lot of other drivers, when you're making these big moves, it's the exit of 4 that really sets up this whole entire next lap. It looks to be just wait and close in. And also, if you're trying to put the pressure on the driver ahead of you, you're hoping for a mistake, and I think that's what Ross Tatum's ultimate goal is here. He doesn't want to put any over-aggression that's going to put more wear on his tires, but certainly hoping for some type of opportunity, and here it is. First shot, taking it to the inside, and Altis gives it up very cleanly.
Yeah, Altis got a little tight out of turn number 4. Ross got the run through 1 and 2. Altis just gives it to him, able to drop down in line, though, in front of Zach Hall, so doesn't lose more positions as they're kind of lined up behind that of the 94 machine, but able to drop down. But now this is just, one less buffer that Nick Holland has to probably the fastest truck on the track in Ross Tatum. And I don't think it's going to take Tatum long, Tatum long to get up there and apply pressure to the 16 Nick Holland.
I'm expecting maybe 2-3 laps, and Nick Holland is going to have to hope he's hitting his marks every single lap. Well, that's going to dwindle it down maybe to just 1 more lap, with Nick Holland going with a much more higher entry. The last 2 laps, though, it has been all of that of the 21. That go around, as we see the update, once again, faster is that of Ross Tatum.
Yeah, Nick's, when we talked to Nick there at the stage break, he said he was going to try to save a little bit of tire out front. So I think he's running this higher line, kind of the late diamond line to not put as much stress on the right front tire as you would if you just run the bottom all the way around. So maybe trying to save a little bit of tire here for himself, but saying he can't save much longer because that 21 truck will be there here in the next lap and a half or so, and Nick's going to have to try to put up a defense on this.
Ross Tatum, second place runner right now, but behind him is Mears. He's in a great battle. Zach Hall, Joshua Altus. Zach, coming off of last week's win, we were looking at the history books of Zach Hall's, you could say, pretty short career here for the Full Send Racing Series. He was here for the first for the second half of last season, and he's been here full time for season 4. But Trevor, you found a very odd data of note at the end after we saw Zach's win of the pattern of Zach's wins that when they would come around.
Yeah, it's just so weird. He'll win back-to-back races, but then he'll go 8 races without winning a race and then go back-to-back again. So, I mean, if we look at our stats, he went back-to-back at Michigan and Darlington. So, I mean, theoretically, Sam, looking at our numbers and how many races we have left this season, Zach Hall won't win another race this season, and then we'll go, back-to-back wins to start next season. So, I mean, it's an odd stat, but it's a stat that we have, and the numbers back it up.
And what's even crazier than that, that's just looking at the fact of this season. That pattern even goes back into last season when Zach won during season 3, where it's an 8-race bracket of when you can win a race and then goes on an 8 spree of not getting a win, then finds himself in victory lane. So is it an 8-race break, or is Zach about to go on one of the most massive tears that Full Send Racing Series has ever seen? That could be a big thing to watch out for, as we're seeing the 26, very colorful pink and orange, trying to make the moves on the outside of Travis Dart, but it just looks like his tires more than anything. It's kind of starting to fail him at this point, as Jonathan Woods, he's been on a very quiet, just continues to run and moving forward type of spree by the 2, and as well by the 1 of Will Bustler.
Yeah, those two just quietly working their way forward. Woods up 5 spots, Bustler up 13 spots. From where he started, so both of them in the top 10. Woods had a little bit of a look to the inside of Travis Dart through 3 and 4, clipped the apron just a little bit, got loose, had to give that position back up. But those two just quietly working their way through the field, waiting for the tire wear to kick in some of these trucks in front of them, and then just quietly picking them off. And then right behind them, Cameron Sarton runs in 10th position, Sam, and we haven't talked much about him, especially after the little bit of contact he had with Chris Stitz when Stitz got to the outside wall.
And then behind that is Sarn, also going to be seeing the 15, Ken Campbell, Cole Sketty, and able to be moving forward as well. Chris Stitz, though, update on the 17, seems to be maybe a slight low on power based off his rate of pace that he's got right now. Has not been looking good with 17 as he's back in 19th position. But, with these two drivers that are on, looking back at some of these drivers, such as, Orion Lynch and others deeper in the field, they're, again, quiet nights for themselves, but trying to move forward as Will Bustler to the inside, pushing Jonathan Woods up, and he'll be swamped by the 24 of Cameron Sarton. But I was going to say, for the 2 and the 1, they both are fast machines. Based off of practice times in the session before qualifying, both are finding that Will Bustler 4th fastest, and now Jonathan Woods, 5th fastest of all drivers during practice. So there is speed. Again, qualifying just wasn't there. They've got some sneaky pace. Just watch out for them later on. It could come down to strategy as we are past the halfway marker here tonight. Plenty of aggressive racing still to be shown as drivers making passes all around. And for the lead, it is already done and dusted in a blink of an eye. I looked at the marker, and 21, just in one fell swoop, goes from 2nd to the lead.
Yeah, it took him a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but finally Ross Tatum gets to the lead. We'll see, if that of Nick Holland was able to save any tire, could keep up with this 21 machine. But Sam, now that he's in clean air, if I'm the rest of the field, I'm a little bit worried to see Ross Tatum in clean air with how fast he's been here tonight.
Certainly would be. And also of note, we were talking about tire failures and when drivers would come to pit road. Ryan Lynch, first driver into pit road, and into pit road joining him going to be that of Cole Sacchetti, as well as that of Kyle Carpenter and others. It is a mass gaggle of cars coming into pit road, a lot more than I was expecting. but it seems to be they are breaking it down to 45 laps for this first stint. Then they're going to probably go for another 50 laps and then finish this race off. It could be another stop these drivers have to make, and it might be around that 150 marker.
Interesting. So some drivers going with a two-stop pit strategy here, breaking this up. It makes me wonder if anybody's going to try the one stop. I mean, it'd be really. Oh, it's caution.
Throw it away. Doesn't matter. It's going to be John Dart, Ken Campbell. Caught up in issues since the 15, spun around on the backstretch.
Oh, this
Jonathan Woods as well spun around.
Now this changes everything. I mean, if the guys that just pit, Sam, all gonna have to take the wave around. Everybody else is gonna get a free pit stop. As we get that replay pulled up and see what happened. But the pit strategy that I was thinking about now kind of out the window is I think everybody will just have to make one pit stop after they come down for service this time around.
Well, and Cole Sacchetti and Kyle Carpenter are in a very odd situation because they were almost 2 laps down in the time of the yellow. They're trying to catch up, but here's what brought out our caution. Watch out for that Under Armour 15. Gets right into the 2 of Jonathan Woods, and they both get caught up in the mesh. That of John Dart also getting a little bit of a clip there. And Ken Campbell, blown engine, required damage. He's into pit road. We'll see how long he's going to be having to stay. As for Philip Chavez, who had the first blown engine, he has already called it a night. He got repairs done, but it wasn't for very long. The 15, he's going to sit in pit road for a while.
Well, Sam, that's going to end our streak of the pole sitter leading the most laps and winning here tonight. That's going to take Ken Campbell out of the race and just look like closed in a little bit quicker than I think he thought he was going to on Jonathan Woods, and they get together and Campbell comes out worse for wear out of Woods and that of John Dart in that incident. But that's going to take our pole sitter out of contention here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what bad ohm is on Ken Campbell, but it has been ruthless for the 15 for the past month. He has just been caught up in so many messes when he's had a strong, fast truck. Just doesn't seem like the middle of the race has been friendly to him. We'll see if that changes heading into next week at Talladega, as that will be his last opportunity to try to shake things up before the playoffs. As Ross Tatum up front, fresh rubber. And this is going to be interesting to see how the 21 is going to fray on this beginning, because Nick Holland could go back to that aggressive driving, knowing, hey, this race is now a one stop from here. When do you want to make that stop? Well, it's all based on how aggressive you're willing to be on making your tires last to cut this thing in half or not.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that Nick's going to be a little bit aggressive, try to get that lead back and drive away, kind of like he did there in the first stage, Sam. I mean, if you look at this, they're going to go about 50 laps, probably make a pit stop, and if that's the case, I mean, Nick played it perfectly there in that first stage with how quickly he was able to pull away from everybody, and that could work out for him again here.
And it certainly could, as drivers waiting to get back to green flag racing. Looking at our list of drivers, biggest mover right now going to be Will Bussler in the 1 in 6th place. He is up 16 positions with also the timing of this yellow. That of Kyle Carpenter and all those that came into pit road. Luckily for them, they will be able to take the wave around. They're just waiting to give them the all clear to take off. But Chris Stitz, heavy damage for the 17. He's going to be still 1 lap down. Ken Campbell still dealing with his ailments, but able to get his repairs finished. He's going to be currently just 1 lap down, so it looked to be just a simple broken toe length for the 15. So luckily his race isn't completely over, but it's heavy damage as we've seen from other drivers. And other drivers that are also 1 lap down going to be Ryan Lynch and Jonathan Woods. As we are getting ourselves ready and set, they're stacking up, and here we go, Trevor. About to get back to green flag racing.
About to get back to green flag racing. The question is going to be who's going to be aggressive here on the restart. Is that of Ross Tatum going to take it easy, try to save the tires like he's been doing all night long? Is Nick Holland going to be super aggressive, or are we going to see somebody from the Freaky Fast Racing team in that second row, Zach Hall, Andrew Medlin, are they going to be willing to be aggressive? And you've got Will Bussler, Sam, up there in 6th position in that one truck. I mean, he's kind of the wild card out of this group that hasn't been up near the front all race long.
And working his way slowly, methodically moving forward. His partner in crime, Jonathan Woods, now going to be back in 19th position with some heavy damage. But it is going to be Ross Tatum, Nick Holland, Zach Hall, Andrew Medlin, Will Bustler, Joshua Altus, Travis Dart, Brian Cole, as well as Cameron Sarton and John Dart, finishing out our top 10, ready to take off here tonight for our next restart. We're past halfway marker. Now, can we stay green to the end of this race? As the pace car is off into the restart zone, we go for the Testicular Cancer Awareness 200 here at Dover as they roar down in turn number 1.
And Nick Holland didn't get a great restart there. Already lost a spot to the 12 of Andrew Medlin. Might lose a spot to the 32 here of Zach Hall, but throttles it up through 1 and 2. He's going to get a good run here on the 12 of Medlin. He's going to get that spot back, so right back up to second position for the 68 of Nick Holland. And being aggressive early on, going to look to maybe go to the inside of the 21 of Ross Tatum. We're going to have to follow him here, but gets a really good drive off Sam, and here he comes for the lead.
Going to be to the inside quarter panel. Ross Tatum, will he fight for it? No, he'll just let the 68 go. Now for Andrew Medlin, Zach Hall, are they going to show a front bumper to try to indicate that they want to take off and try to challenge Nick Holland? But it looks like it could be a factor of, hey, let's just let the 68 go. And if you're Andrew Medlin and Zach Hall, you've seen Ross Tatum be the fastest driver on the long run. Keep with the pace of the 21, and you might find yourself with some great runs later on here tonight.
You might be, because Nick Holland, Sam, just laid down the fastest lap he's run all race. And I think the fastest lap of the race was a 23.16. So definitely not saving any tires. But, this is what he did in that first stage. Was able to drive away, able to hold on. When we hit that 50 lap mark, I mean, Ross was running him back in, but hadn't caught him. And so this could be a similar situation. So if you're Zach Hall, Medlin, Altus, Brian Cole, you don't want that 68 to get that far ahead of you, because it might be a case of when you catch him, it might be time for pit stops.
I don't know if this fall off might be just as aggressive, but I was looking at all the times on when you stated that Nick Holland put down his fastest lap the whole entire race and beat out everyone. Almost everyone in the field had put down their fastest lap, just showing this track, it is heating up on the speed, and that means each driver's got to be focusing up fully. And I think Ross Tatum might have recognized it. Hey, this track is very quick, and that means you could get a little bit overzealous with it being so grippy and using up those tires faster. And he has put the brakes on completely, almost throw out the anchor. So the 21 is falling back to 4th now.
Yeah, let Zach Hall by, let Andrew Medlin by, and might be a good call from Ross to do so. Like, I mean, the track's got 115 laps on it. It's rubbered up. Got a lot of grip in it. Really easy to carry the momentum, but also going to be really easy to burn those tires up. And Ross probably just thinking that, like, hey, I'll let these guys go up there, burn their equipment up. I'll run them back down here in about 10, 15, 20 laps and be right back to where I was. So might be a smart move here from the 21 machine.
And also going to be turning now the 21 into a kind of a release valve. Who wants to take off and try to challenge our top 3? Joshua Altus going to be in line with 21, but he's not showing any signs. And this is what you kind of need to have, is that evolution throughout a race of how you want to change up your racing styles. Do you want to be aggressive all the way from the start of the race? At every restart, every opportunity, it seems like for Altus, he's willing to just settle in, roll with the 9, the 1, and for the 1 of Will Bustler, he's starting to get some action. As Travis Dart trying to make the move here for the 26, as he's not able to make the pass for 7th just yet.
Yeah, for Travis Dart, I mean, kind of been stuck in this 7th to about 10th position pretty much all race long. Moved up a little bit at the start of the race, but kind of fell back when the tire wear kicked in for himself, but finds himself, I mean, having a good run inside the top 10. Right behind that of Will Bustler, you get Cameron Sarton right behind him, and John Dart rounds out our top 10 as they're all kind of nose to tail with one another, trying to figure out who's going to make the mistake. You can get a pass done here. John Dart's going to look to the outside of the 24 of Cameron Sarton, just takes a high line and a nice arc out of turn number 2 to stay in line.
I feel like if you're showing signs, you point your nose to the inside lane when you're trying to pass someone, you get to that inner groove, and the other drivers recognize, all right, you're trying to pass, just let them go on by. If you're trying to go on the outside, it usually is a good sign, trying to save tires, and I like that call from John Dart. Just take it easy. He's running around some good competition right now. For the 99, who we know is going to be running for a chance for the championship, such an underdog story on getting his win back at Auto Club. It's been amazing to watch how John Dart has been evolving again. Talking about evolving in a race, evolving throughout the season. That's what the 99 has been doing with having 2 poles this season and trying to find more consistency in his finishing.
Yeah, I mean, he got that win at Auto Club, and like you said, he's had speed in qualifying, and then been really consistent with running inside the top 10, throughout the season since that win. So just trying to put it all together for himself, keep the momentum built up for himself when he gets to those playoffs. Because like you said, he is going to be one of the biggest underdogs when we get to those playoffs. But anything can happen when we get to those playoffs, Sam. Underdogs can come away with a championship win if they play if everything falls their way.
Gotta find the cards and the way that they line up. As the playoffs, the first round, going to be an interesting one to watch. Las Vegas and Indianapolis road course is going to be the round of 12. Then the round of 8 going to be Atlanta Motor Speedway. So we're waiting on confirmation if it's going to be in the 2008 configuration or the Super Speedway configuration. But either way, it gets harder after that, because finishing off the round of 8, they head to Martinsville to be the cutoff race before they head to Phoenix for the championship for our Final Four. The playoffs, that is a very strange and tough roster. I mean, looking at the schedule, Las Vegas, Indianapolis road course, Atlanta, Martinsville, Phoenix. That is a tough 5-race schedule the drivers have for the playoff contenders.
Yeah, and I believe when I was talking to Travis, for the episode of the podcast, I believe he said it was the Super Speedway at Atlanta. So, I mean, you go mile and a half to a road course that really, Sam, I don't think anybody's really ever driven around, especially if you're on the oval side of things. It's not a racetrack that we go to that often in the Indy road course. And then Atlanta Super Speedway, which is always a wild card, even old Atlanta with how the tire wear worked there. And then the short track of Martinsville for a cutoff race. I mean, those first 2 rounds, whoever survives that to the championship 4, they did a heck of a job getting through those 2 rounds to make it to the championship 4 at Phoenix.
They certainly did. And what a season it's been. We've had so many different winners, 9 different winners to be exact. Zach Hall has been predominantly the one that's gotten the most with 4. Then Chris Stitz had 2 wins, and we've had one-time winners from 3rd down to that of 9th. In the point standings, and it's been a pleasure to give all the coverage, all the different battles, and this 53, one of those that kind of found himself in a lucky situation of being at Eldora dirt racing, a facet that some drivers just don't feel comfortable in, and for that of Christopher Wade winning there, but we know he's got speed. He's performed well in other leagues that we've watched in this trucks, and I'm curious, when are they going to be seeing this Christopher Wade kind of switch up where he will be a threat? Because right now, he has been one of those drivers I'm highly concerned about when we go into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't seen the finishes out of Christopher that we've been accustomed to seeing. I mean, he ran really well last season in the Xfinity car, and then this season got that win at Eldora, and then just kind of has been a bottom top 10, top 15 truck pretty much throughout the rest of the season. And it could be just, hey, I've made the playoffs. I'm just going to kind of ride around, log laps and wait till I get to the playoffs to turn it on. But the problem, Sam, is if you do that, you have no real momentum, no real confidence, in how the truck's going to perform by the time you get to the playoffs. It might be a little too late for him to just flick a switch and turn it on.
Today could be a momentum builder as these drivers hit lap 130. We are closing in on when these drivers might think about making their final pit stop, so this could be one of our final times to take a commercial break. We are going to go side by side so you don't miss a thing. It is the Full Send Racing Series you're watching here tonight, race number 14 of the season. And who's going to win the penultimate race? Well, you'll find out after this as we go side by side here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting.
The best, you got them for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
He's following, they're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the 00.
They're 5 wide behind for Pitt. Oh my, 5 wide, here's the single to work. This is it. They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Sets gets into the wall. Gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron. Drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside trying to get the win. And it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 to get into the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 to Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is going to steal the win here.
What second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Full Send Racing Series. It's race number 14 of the regular season, and the drivers certainly have had a very up and down race. Drivers are starting to think about pit road stops, as a few have come into pit road. Most of those are drivers in the back of the field. But I'm hearing reports, drivers are thinking 150 to 160 could be the number on when you come into pit road, but it's starting to get a lot more questionable on that coverage. But before we get to more of this race, we've got to shout out some of these amazing sponsors that help out the Full Send Racing Series. The major one, the Lap Traffic Podcast. Lap Traffic Podcast, quality podcast, listening to great conversations on the daily. Go check out their wide range of catalogs that they have right now, as they also were one of the main sponsors of tonight's race for the Testicular Cancer Awareness 200 here tonight. And as well, big thanks to ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. And the final sponsor, it's Next Level Racing. Get your Next Level Racing rig today. Get yourself started with racing. Trevor, heard it over my ear. It sounds like pit road's starting to get busy.
Starting to get busy, and Sam, this is a very difficult pit road to get to. Coming out of 3 and 4, really easy to get loose, getting onto the apron, trying to get down to pit road speed, really easy to miss pit road, or even more embarrassingly, end up in the barrels on pit road. We've seen it happen before. John Dart's already made his pit stop. The 9 of Brian Colgan bringing that machine down pit road, along with the 30 of Charles Hugel. So pit stops definitely in cycle a little bit early, about 2 laps earlier than what we were maybe thinking that our leaders were going to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe Nick Holland, Will Bustler, Zach Hall, one of those drivers come down pit road a little bit early to try to get this undercut on Ross Tatum.
I mean, you have to do the undercut really at this point to catch up to Ross Tatum, but I think that's probably the worst decision to make because Ross Tatum is so far ahead and so much faster than everyone else. You need the fresher rubber to just compete with the 21 later on in this race, but I mean, that's the catch-21 that these drivers are in right now of where do you go with all this speed?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do to try to run down Ross? I mean, he got around Nick Holland, now pulled out to that of about a 2.3 second lead over Andrew Medlin, who was finally able to get around the 68 machine. Now, Will Bustler going to try to look to the inside of Nick Holland, who's really now struggling, Sam, on those tires, and I think might be coming down pit road this time buying that 68 machine as he continues to drop through the field, and he is going to bring that 68 down pit road.
Austin Cole, we're going to be trying to get that Wonder Bread machine forward, and as he'll get by Zach Hall as see the 77 slowly inching his way through pit road, which it is so slow. You're going an average of 140 miles per hour here at Dover. They got to come to a screeching halt of 35 miles per hour through pit road, which is such a hard place to, like I said, just enter pit road. But you don't want to get caught speeding either, because that would be killer. As well as see Austin Cole in the Wonder Bread machine, still trying to make his passes and move forward. He's got lap traffic and lead drivers all around.
Yeah, Cole already has come down pit road, so trying to work his way through the leaders here on these fresh tires, get as much as he can out of it. So he tries to get around the 12 of Andrew Medlin there. He's going to get that pass done. But yeah, Sam, I mean, one of the slowest pit roads in NASCAR, 35 miles an hour. I mean, it literally feels like you're crawling down pit road.
Sorry to cut you off. Trouble on the entry. Talk about the potential, and it's going to be Joshua Altis. Spun sideways, issues as he was getting into pit road, locked up his tires, and has an unsafe pit entry for the 94. He's going to get that 40-second hold for himself.
And just that easy, Sam. Came in a little too high, it looked like, to make the entry to pit road. Got the rear tires locked up, got it spun. Thankfully kept it out of the barrels and kept it out of the inside wall, but going to cost him a lot of time and taking out of a potential top 5 finish that he was looking like having tonight. He's going to be multiple laps down once he gets that service done.
As we continue to keep our camera on second place, because what a duel it's been. Will Bustler, this is looking great for the one machine, as Charles Hugel going to be trying to make the pass on the inside lane. But Will Bustler, I mean, up 20 spots, biggest mover of the night, started back in 22nd position and now in second. The numbers are lining up, and if Ross Tatum has an issue, this one is looking poised, as well as Andrew Medlin and Zach Hall, for a chance to maybe try to steal this one away. But hit still 2 seconds, a huge gap, especially into this long run where Ross Tatum continues to pull away.
Yeah, I just think in the long run, nobody's really got anything for that of Ross Tatum. I mean, look at the lap times. He was about a 10th quicker than that of Will Bustler, 2/10 quicker than Andrew Medlin, 4/10 quicker than Zach Hall. So still running great lap times for Ross, and still being able to pull away from everybody's. The question of the undercut, if it's going to be enough to keep ahead of the 21 machine, as Andrew Medlin's going to make his pit stop.
Medlin into pit road, saw some tire smoke on a lockup, looking to see if he's going to caught the speeding, and no, he hit his marker of 35 miles per hour. Now he makes the slow surge to pit road, and just hearing the reports over the radio, Zach Hall into pit road. Cameron Sarn thinking about pit road. Here we go with drivers making their entry, and you see their hands working very aggressively to try to make that entry. And Will Bustler having some slight issues, and behind them, it's going to be the 24 Cameron Sarton spinning around. Same exact thing that happened to Joshua Altus, just showing, luckily, they're off the racing surface, but trouble striking some of our favorites here tonight.
Yeah, just too much rear brake trying to get the truck slowed down for pit road. Really easy to do that. A lot of drivers throughout the course of the run saying, "I'll move that rear brake, or move the brake bias to the back to help get the truck to rotate." But when you come for these pit stops, you get to really brake hard. Really easy to lock those rear tires up and send you sliding through pit road. And that's twice we've seen that as our leader Ross Tatum's on pit road.
And Ross Tatum, this whole entire long run has been a picture-perfect scene. He's been dealing with practically no issues of drivers having that of, lap cars in the way and having issues on the entry of pit road. And he continues to look rock solid as if this race continues to stay green. Ross Tatum, he's going to have to run down some drivers, but this is looking great for the 21 with 40 laps to go. As Christopher Wade leads the way, it's Cole Sacchetti that we see on screen in second, waiting for when he's going to be coming into pit road.
Yeah, Wade brings the 53 machine down pit road, so it's going to leave Cole Sacchetti, Nick Gould, Kyle Carpenter, Jonathan Woods as the only 5 trucks that haven't made a pit stop yet. And it's going to turn over to, I believe, that of John Dart, Ryan Lynch, Brian Cole will all cycle out right behind those guys once they make their pit stops. It's going to be interesting to see where this 21 Sam of Ross Tatum is going to cycle out in all this green flag pit stop as well.
He's down to about 14, and that means he would be around. He's got to catch up to Nick Holland. Holland, we know, if we looked at the pace, he usually is falling off the ends of these runs. So it could be a race between that of Travis Dart, Andrew Medlin, and Ross Tatum. How these drivers want to run. And for Ross Tatum, I mean, we know he's great on the long run, but for Andrew Medlin, how is he going to utilize being on a 2-tire deficit? Well, he's in the hornet's nest currently right now with that of Travis Dart. Nick, oh my goodness, I'm looking at 9th place right now, and it is not looking good. This is a mess, and all the drivers that are looking to be our favorites here tonight are all mixed in between with this. As Andrew Medlin and others get by, Kyle Carpenter going to force it 3 wide, as it's going to be Ross Tatum on the inside of that 3 wide action, as the 21 gets by Travis Dart. And in one scary, swift moment, somehow we continue to stay green, but these drivers are dealing with a lot right now.
Yeah, I mean, any little mistake right there, Sam could have taken out a bunch of favorites, but everybody gets through it. Travis Dart got a little loose, got up into the wall, but keeps that machine, that 26 machine going, but he lost a couple of spots. But the issue for Ross Tatum, though, he's going to be on fresher tires. The issue, I mean, we're coming down to that of 35-ish laps to go, Sam. I mean, drivers aren't just going to roll over and let you pass them. You're going to have to work for these passes, and that could work into the favor of some of these guys that pulled a little bit of the undercut.
And the driver leading the undercut is a 3 wide, all in between, and somehow sneaking through with Zach Hall in the 32, as also Nick Gould, Travis Dart trying to get by. And they're already flying as much as they can. Leading the way, though, still not into pit roads. The 14, Nick Gould, Kyle Carpenter, John Dart. Kyle Carpenter, excuse me, in second place, still needs to come to pit road for himself. But it's third place runner of John Dart that is going to be the first driver that already came into pit road. And looking at the gap between himself back to Ross Tatum, that is a very good margin that he's got right now. But we know that that's going to be cut very quickly. It's almost a second each lap that Ross Tatum's starting to catch up, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to take long for Ross to roll or close in on him. I mean, Ross is on 12-lap fresher tires. John went with a really aggressive undercut there. Came in on lap 146. You look behind him, Nick Holland came in at lap 150. Jonathan Wood still yet to pit. And you got Andrew Medlin, who came in on lap 156. Ross Tatum just got around Brian Cole. So, I mean, Ross Tatum's going to be on the freshest tires on lap 158. But, I mean, he's got to gain about 6 seconds and get through Medlin, Woods, and Holland to get to John Dart.
And for Nick Gould, we were given again that report. 70 to 74 laps of fuel is the distance that you can go for fuel, but can the tires go that long was the true question. As Nick Gould, Kyle Carpenter, as well as Jonathan Woods, all going to be continuing to stay out as long as possible. They're hoping and banking on a yellow flag to come out. And will it, or if it will come out, is going to be the true question here, as trouble for our fill-in driver, the 9 of Brian Cole, bouncing off of the wall off the exit of turn 2, almost collecting Zach Hall, which would have been that caution Nick Gould's looking for.
Yeah, Nick Gould, Kyle Carpenter, Jonathan Woods, who have all yet still to make their pit stop, definitely looking for that caution. Almost had it there with Cole bouncing off the wall, but keeps it straight, stay green. And those two, Sam, definitely going to need a caution if they want any chance at converting this long run into track position for themselves. But I don't know where they might get it. Everybody kind of spread out now as the pit cycle has worked its way through.
We do know that the tires can plateau at some point if they're pushing maybe a little bit too aggressive. So patience going to be a key factor here for that of Andrew Medlin and Ross Tatum. They're trying to catch up with John Dart. The gap is a little bit over about 3 seconds for themselves. It's closing down, but it's between John Dart as well as Nick Holland, Andrew Medlin, and Ross Tatum, Zach Hall. That is going to be what should be your top 5 after Nick Gould and Kyle Carpenter come to pit road, as they can only stretch it out just a few more laps. 5 to around that of 8 is the amount for Kyle Carpenter. Who pitted later than him was actually Nick Gould, who can stretch it out just a little bit further. And over the radio, Kyle Carpenter has already made the indication he's heading to pit road.
Yeah, didn't get the caution that he needed, but gonna have the freshest tires out of the bunch, Sam. But I think just gonna lose too much time here to really do anything with it. Gutsy call from Kyle to try to make up some track position, was running back outside the top 15 pretty much a majority of the night, just didn't get the break that he needed for himself. So that just leaves now Nick Gould, Jonathan Woods. Woods already fallen all the way back to that of 8th position, still yet to make his pit stop. Nick, though, still has a 5-second lead, but due into pit road in the next couple of laps, which will hand that lead over to John Dart, who still has a second lead over Nick Holland, but that lead is quickly closing in, along with Andrew Medlin and Ross Tatum, who've caught that 68 machine.
Got the 68 machine, and that was Andrew Medlin. Not a good sign. He bounced off the wall earlier, and damage is hurting that of the 12 machine as Ross Tatum makes the pass, and I think Medlin might have been the last valve that could have held back the 21, because John Dart is a sitting duck. Ross Tatum is flying with 25 laps to go. It is go time for the 21.
Yeah, 5/10 of a second quicker that last lap. Ross Tatum over John Dart. You see right there, has to get around the 55 of Sam Siegel. Does that, almost does that with ease. They're still going to be side by side out of turn number 4 here, but gets the clear of the 55 machine now, and only 2 truck lengths back of John Dart. Sam, this should be a pretty easy pass for the 21 of Ross Tatum.
Ross Tatum, he was on the same kind of boat. We were talking about that of Cameron Sarton, of just looking, when was he going to get a win? And he took him all the way until race number 11 at North Wilkesboro, where finally Ross Tatum got himself into victory lane for season 4, and he's now in the trajectory of finding himself getting his 2nd win of the season if this race stays green, as the 21, some of the freshest tires you could ask for up front. The next driver's got better tires than Ross Tatum. You have to fall all the way down to 13th place where Cole Sacchetti is. And this 21 has been the fastest on the long run. And right now, fresh tires taking off. It is all Ross Tatum right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing Ross doesn't want to see right now is a caution that would essentially reset the field and make everybody come down pit road for a final pit stop. But looking good for himself right now. And for Cole Sacchetti, I mean, he's got almost an 8-lap advantage on tires. Sam, the issue, he's 13 seconds back of our race leader. I mean, he was only a 10th quicker that last time by, so not going to get it done at that rate of speed to catch the lead.
No, and the next driver that really would have an opportunity would be if you fall down to that of Nick Gould, Kyle Carpenter, but they're dealing with heavy damage, so I don't see them really being a factor either. As Charles Hugel, what a run by this 30 machine. Right now in 9th place. 8th is Austin Call. And this is what these strategy races kind of turn into, is opportunities for drivers that maybe weren't looking for a good day. Maybe it was just a survival day. They can have some of their best runs of the season as the 30s trying to hold off the 2-time champ of that of Cameron Sarton. He runs high, he lets Sarton go. Most likely going to let that of also Siketti drive on by, but it's good to see the 30 up here battling instead of our top 15.
Yeah, just, again, another one of those drivers quietly having a good run up there. It was inside the top 10. Now going to fall back a little bit as he gets passed by Christopher Wade. Cameron Sarton trying to recover from his pit road spin that he had. Has to now worry about getting past her from the 42 of Siketti, but for Hugel, just having a great run, Sam. Now back to 12th, but a pretty good night for himself.
I would say a very spectacular night for the 30 machine. His only other better finish than 12th place finish was at Bristol, where he got 7th, but he's finished 12th 2 times. And with drivers coming into pit road, with that of Jonathan Woods, it now moves up Charles Hugel to 11th. And some of the other drivers behind him really not close enough. Hugel could have his second best finish of the season with this performance here tonight.
It's about a 3-second gap to that of Will Bustler in the one machine, who was up, Sam, battling there for third position there for a little bit. And after green flag pit stop cycled through all the way back in 12th, so not a great pit stop for Will. But Hugel, I mean, if something were to happen to one of these trucks in front of him, could find himself here with a potential top 10 finish.
I mean, I still can't get over the fact as we move up to 4th, that of John Dart. What a run he's having here this evening. 4th place for himself. But I'm shaking my head at 8th place runner, Christopher Wade, the 53. I mean, at one moment, Christopher Wade was just hanging out in the 20th position, was taking the extreme cautious approach on his tires during our first stage. And then he kind of was stuck back there. We were questioning how he was going to finish out this race. But right now, he's got decent tires. Everyone behind him has older tires than him. And he could potentially, with continuing at this pace, might be able to grab at least one more spot from that of 6th place runner of Travis Dart in the next couple of laps.
I mean, he very well could grab that spot. I mean, Cole Siketti on 4-lap fresher tires than him. But, I mean, you look at the guys in front of him. He's got 8-lap fresher tires than Travis, 10-lap fresher tires than Nick, and 14-lap fresher tires than John Dart. I mean, if those 3 fall off, he could gain 3 spots and possibly get a top 5 out of this.
It is very slim, but potentially is there for Christopher Wade if the stars align for himself. 15 laps to go here tonight at Dover. And this is just setting what a stage up for next week. Talladega going to be the cutoff race on who's making it into the playoffs. And Trevor, I'm so excited for next week because it is all the drivers heading into next week looking to be, if the race finishes on where they're at right now, if anyone's going to get into the playoffs, it's based off a win. There's no way to point your way into the playoffs for anyone that's outside looking in after tonight. That's going to be putting a lot of pressure on the aggressive level that we're going to be seeing next week.
Oh, I think the aggression level is going to be there from the drop of the green flag next week. Drivers trying to position themselves into the best position they can to get away. And you're going to have to see drivers like Andrew Medlin, Kyle Carpenter, Travis Dart, and those guys that are outside the top 12 try to be aggressive, try to get a win, and kind of Cinderella their way into the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic race when we get there next week.
There are, I'm looking at the list in total, almost 10 drivers that if they all show up, have the potential chance of a win, and you're in. It is a must-win scenario that all those drivers are going to be placing themselves into next week. And that list of 10 we'll give you later on, probably on top of next week's race, but it is certainly looking more and more interesting because it also matters on if they show up to next week's race or not. The driver that is showing up here tonight, it is Ross Tatum. 10 laps to go. The 21. I mean, Trevor, there were moments where we thought, hey, maybe it was going to be our pole setter just based off the trends that we've seen in the past seasons of if you get the pole, you usually lead the most laps and you win the race. That didn't happen. Then we saw Nick Holland with the aggression being up front. Then we saw as well seeing that of Joshua Altus battling. But it's the 21 who was settling, learning what the tire wear was like, and with 9 laps to go, in the perfect position to win here.
Yeah, I mean, I should have should have thought better than to bet against the 21 Ross Tatum, especially on a track that's as demanding on tires as Dover is. And with green flag runs, we should have expected Ross to be as quick as he is, but I didn't expect for him to just be able to pull away from drivers like this. I mean, Nick Holland was quick, Campbell was quick. All those drivers that were up front at one point were super fast. The issue is they were fast on the short run. Ross somehow here tonight has just been able to master this long run and continues to pull away from now second place Zach Hall.
And I'm looking at these numbers and they are blowing my mind. Ross Tatum is running faster now than the drivers that pitted 11 laps after he came into pit road. We've been in a little bit of a cycle now on wear and tear, drivers being a little bit more aggressive, maybe because they know they don't have to save. This 21, the long run pace has been there, and he is still pulling away from Zach Hall. The gap's now up to 3 seconds. Some battles that are happening in the middle of the field, though, as we're dwindling down on these laps. 10th place runners going to be Will Bustler and Austin Call. Bustler having the advantage on tires, and luckily the one got by, because if they continue to stay side by side, there was a chance caution flag coming out that would shake all of this up.
Yeah, I mean, we had it there for 3 weeks in a row at Pocono, Charlotte, and Wilkesboro, green-white checker finishes. And right now, if you're Ross Tatum, that's the last thing you want to see is a late race caution, as we've got coming to, I believe, 4 to go. Or I'm sorry, we're on 5 to go right now. And Sam, if I'm Ross, that's the last thing you definitely want to see is a yellow flag waving. But thankfully, for Bustler and Austin Call, able to get that pass done with a minimal contact, and both drivers keeping clean.
Just trying to keep my eye out on our track map and seeing on my end if there's any close battles between drivers. Hopefully they can clean it up quickly, because Ross wants this race to stay clean and green. Travis Dart, let's talk about this 26. I mean, what a job on his part on what was looking like a potential chance after qualifying in 4th, that he may not have the long run pace to finish inside of our top 10, and right now comfortably in 6th place.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him go with that little bit of a save tire strategy to start the stage run that we kind of saw everybody else do, but then really fell off toward the end of it, Sam. And it was kind of odd to see. Just took the life out of the tires, but did a really good job learning from that, able to settle into that of a 6th place position. Got Colson closing in on him, though. He was on a little bit fresher tires, but 2 laps to go. Hopefully for Travis' sake, he can hold off that 42 machine and get this 6th place finish.
Trying to hold off, stay steady, as Ross Tatum has been looking so great up front here at Dover. Really, like you said, Trevor, we should have never counted out this 21. When it comes to tire-saving tracks, the 21 always seems to show up. And now we can call it official. The white flag, freaking fast white flag, is out in the air and looking for his 2nd win of the season. And career-wise, we'll be looking for his 6th win of his career. Ross Tatum looking strong to tie for the 4th all-time winners list. He is coming out of turn number 4, and give it to the 21. Ross Tatum wins here at Dover.
I mean, just ran an absolute picture-perfect race here tonight, Sam. The tire strategy, being able to save the tires, and then just drove away from the field, 4-second gap all the way back to Zach Hall. And that 21 machine going for the title defense this season and winning right before we get to the playoffs. Might be a little bit scary for this field if Ross Tatum starts to find a little bit of momentum.
Season 3 champ, never can count him out. He certainly had a spectacular run last season in the Xfinity car, but in the trucks, it hasn't been as dominant of a force. But here tonight, this was probably the most dominant race we've seen from the 21 in a while. It was great to see, as he gets to have his fun of burning it down. Other drivers get him some congratulational drive-bys and bumps. So 21 gets to have his fun driving around here at Dover. We will step aside when we come back. We'll talk to our top 3 and a spotlight driver right after this. Welcome back to that of the post race show, ladies and gentlemen, for the Full Send Racing Series. Tonight at Dover, it went clean and green at the end. A little bit of pitch strategy, but it was the driver that looked the fastest on the long run of Ross Tatum getting his second win of the season. As we head to victory lane, let's see what Ross's thoughts were here tonight. Ross, congratulations on your win, your second of the season. And man, what a time to be hitting your mark now as we're inching closer and closer to the playoffs. How are you feeling after this one?
Thanks, guys. That one felt really good. That was a lot of fun. It took a lot of patience, but I made it to the front after starting bad after that terrible qualifying effort. Feels really good. Did some terrible burnouts, probably the worst of the year, but a lot of fun tonight. A lot of great racing tonight. Just a great race by the whole league.
I mean, Ross, you were hands down the quickest truck on the long run after about 15 20 laps or so. You were just blitzing your way through the field or pulling away from everybody if you were out in the lead. I mean, what was the secret tonight to saving tires and being that quick on the long run?
I'm not really sure. I didn't do anything too much different than I normally do at Dover. But I think Nick ran a really, really good race. But I think him getting out there and getting the big lead really helped me out because it kind of pulled, especially on that last run, it pulled Zach and Andrew up there, and they really went hard for a few laps. And once I saw that, I felt really good about my long run speed there at the end and just saving, just hoping for the long run. And thank God we got it. Just a great job by everybody in the league keeping it green right there. It was a lot of fun tonight.
And that it certainly did. Well, Ross, we're heading into Talladega before the playoffs. Any goals that you're heading into next week with, or are you just gonna go with whatever lies?
Man, I wish I was running Talladega next week. I'm actually on vacation next week, so I won't be there, but I'm going to be rooting for my teammates. I think Will and Jonathan have a really good, well, definitely Chris Wade, Will, and Jonathan all have a great chance of winning next week. I think Josh Altus will kind of help them out too. So it should be interesting. I can't wait to watch on Freaky Fast next week. So going to be rooting for my guys.
We're gonna miss you, but congratulations on tonight's win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shoutouts.
Thanks, guys. First, I got to thank Will for making these awesome paint schemes. Will Bustler is the best painter I know. BRD is where he's at on Trading Paint, so everybody go check him out. I got to thank D. Hamian. Uh, he's the podcaster, broadcaster. He does live shows with old veterans from NASCAR. He had Jeff Hammond on a couple weeks ago. Everyone go and like it. Tell him Ross sent you. I got to thank everybody at Freaky Fast. You guys are the best. These broadcasts are so cool. I wish I could participate in the 600 in a few weeks, but I'll be watching for sure. And I got to thank my wife and my kid for letting me race because I know it's time consuming. And just got to thank everyone watching. It's a great night, and thanks to my teammates as well.
Well, that is going to be Ross Tatum, your winner here tonight at Dover. Congratulations! Enjoy your time away from the track next week, and we can't wait to see how you perform in the playoffs in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Well, as we go from victory lane, let's head to second place with a driver that tried to go back to back to back, but was not able to do so. We got Zach Hall with us. Zach, you come away second. Congratulations on that, man. How are you feeling after getting tossed around here at Miles the Monsters Dover?
I'm a little tired, man. That was that race wore me out a little bit. It was a weird race because first I couldn't figure out if I wanted to save or not. I mean, it's one of those things where you get up so much track position. I feel like in that first stage, it was just starting to come back around right at the very end of the run, and it just wasn't working out. So there at the very end, I decided to go, and I probably when I passed Raw, should have just started saving at that point. That would have been the smart play because I feel like if I had just had clean air on the nose, that would have helped a ton. But having Holland out there in front of me, he was tough to get around, and I was just trying to salvage what I could there, and happy to come home second with where we were running there, kind of coming down to the last pit stop.
I mean, Zach, just what was it like out there throughout the race? I mean, as it progressed, it looked like the track kind of gripped up a little bit more. Did it make it any easier to get by drivers, or was it just kind of waiting till the tire wear kicked in before you started making moves?
It was a tricky night for making passes. I feel like it was either you made the pass early and got by him and try to get the air on him and get the track position, then try to save your stuff, or you kind of just set back like Ross did, let us go out there and battle it out and drive away, and then he had just clean air just to run right back up to us. And It's kind of two different mentalities of going about it, but definitely feel like I should have probably did the second one because I felt like on that last little stint there after we hit pit road, I was able to work my tires a lot better by not just driving full bore. But you live and learn, and still happy with second. Probably one of my worst tracks on the service, so that looks good for us.
That it does. And Zach, we've been kind of documenting it the last almost month, it feels like. Freaky Fast Racing's been trying to help Andrew Medlin get into the playoffs. What's the confidence level heading to Talladega, where it is a little bit more of a team factor trying to help your teammate out?
Well, we can go out there and get playoff points. That could help my cause on my side going into those playoffs starting in Las Vegas in 2 weeks. But biggest thing for me, focus is just helping Andrew Medlin. I know a Cole Sacchetti having to miss the playoffs. That's opened the door for him to point his way in, and we're going to do everything in our power. I mean, he's had a good run here tonight, and it's been really good for Freaky Fast Racing. So when we go there, it's going to be a straight team effort, and it's going to be all about helping that 12 machine.
Well, Zach, before we let you go, though, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Well, first off, shout out to my amazing teammates at Freaky Fast Racing and Freaky Fast Broadcasting for sponsoring the team because, man, a great group of teammates. Really love everything they bring to the table and all the help they give me throughout the week to get prepared for these races. So really got to shout out Ken, and I know he had a tough break there speeding on pit road. So shout out to Ken and Andrew there for all the help they do. Also shout out to the league here at Full Send. It's always a blast to race here. If you ain't doing nothing on Tuesday nights and you want somewhere to race, make sure you come join us next season because these guys race excellent. It's just always hard action and just never, overstepping the boundaries. It's just always right on the edge, and that's what I like about racing with these guys. So shout out to them, all the sponsors, and then last but not least, you guys up in the booth.
Well, again, congratulations, Zach, on second place, and good luck next week at Talladega.
Thanks, guys.
Well, as we go from second place, let's head to third place as we get to talk to the man in question of Andrew Medlin to get his thoughts after tonight's run. Andrew, it's Sam and Trevor up in the booth. You come away third here tonight. Congratulations on that. We're looking at the points, and like we heard from Zach, sounds like there might be a way for you to point your way into the playoffs. How does that make you feel knowing that Talladega might not turn into a must-win situation?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it definitely takes some pressure off, Sam. I'm still trying to get a win here. I just can't seem to get to victory lane. But with that aside, finishing P3, another top 3 finish here, getting some good points tonight, heading into Dega and getting a little bit more of cushion will certainly help. And the breaking news this week is Cole Sacchetti will be missing out, so that opens up a spot for myself, Brian, Travis, Ryan, and Austin. I think to either battle it out or someone sneak in with a win at Talladega next week. But either way, it's going to be interesting. I'm not locked in, but I think I'm sitting decent as long as I don't fall apart next week. We'll see.
I mean, Andrew, with that in mind, Cole Sacchetti not gonna make it moves you into that position, but getting that win would solidify you in at Talladega. You go next week there. You got Brian Wilson, Charles Hugel, and a couple of those guys behind you in points. And with Talladega being such a wild card, I mean, kind of what is the mindset for you and for the team next week? I know Zach said it's going to do everything to help you get that win, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I love the team aspect of super speedway racing, and hopefully Ken Campbell's going to be able to make the grid on time. He's got another engagement prior to the race, but if all 3 of us can start, we're all very strong super speedway drivers, and I just got to obviously stay out of the big one. But knowing that I got 2 great teammates at Freaky Fast Racing helping me out. Definitely makes me feel a little better, a little more confidence going in. Certainly want to lead some laps, try to run up front, stay ahead of any of the carnage. But again, it's super speedway racing, so you never know.
That we certainly don't know, but something we do know is you got to finish out here at Dover, the longest Dover race ever in Full Send Racing Series history. Man, how are you feeling after today's race with how long it really was?
I'll tell you what, I'm wore out. I mean, that was tiring. 200 laps there. I mean, I love the way that this track drives. If they could just get rid of the concrete and flip it to asphalt, I feel like I'd do a lot better. 12 cars is not very good at saving that right front tire, but so that got a little, had to really get the knuckles up on the wheel there at the end of those long runs. And kudos to Ross Tatum. He had the right strategy tonight, especially that second to last run. He sat back there, got the clean air. I think with 75 laps to go, he turned it on, and from then on, he didn't look back. And certainly well deserving of win. And I'm glad that Zach and I were able to hold on and get second and third. But definitely an exhausting race. I'm glad it's over. We brought it home in one piece, and we're heading to Talladega.
Congratulations on that. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, certainly. I want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Sarah, my father, Bruce, Aaron, the regulars that are always watching every week, Vernon, Joe, obviously my awesome teammates at Freaky Fast Racing, Ken Campbell, Zach Hall, you guys at Freaky Fast Broadcasting for putting on an amazing broadcast every week. The race sponsor, Lap Traffic Podcast, and we're racing tonight to raise awareness for testicular cancer awareness. So had the Planters Salted Peanuts special paint scheme this week. We'll be back to Special Olympics for the rest of the season, and looking forward to finish out strong and hopefully click it our way through the rounds in the playoffs.
Well, good luck, Andrew, on that. Can't wait to see how you perform next week, and enjoy this time until next week.
Perfect. Appreciate it, guys. See you at Talladega. And remember to get your Freaky Fast apparel.
Go to Store Frontier to get your Freaky Fast merch. As that's Andrew Medlin. We're going to head to our spotlight driver now, which is going to be the 30 machine of Charles Hugel, who comes away with a 12th place finish here tonight. Charles, you're our spotlight driver here tonight. What a run you got to have, tying your second best finish with 12th, which is crazy. We're looking at it. You finished 12th that of 3 times so far this season. But man, how are you feeling after this long run tonight?
Oh, well, definitely glad to be here. Dover's one of my tracks I tend to like. It's kind of a rhythm track. Ran here pretty decently 2 seasons ago, but had a pit road mistake take me out of it. Almost did it tonight at the stage, kind of sped, and it put me at the back of the field at the stage break. But I just kind of drive my own race, stay out of trouble, not cause trouble. And, later in the runs, I seem to pick up a few spots off guys and, just let things fall where they may. And so, really enjoy being here.
I mean, Charles, you go next week with kind of a must-win scenario at Talladega to make it into the playoffs. I mean, like you noted on, you're typically one of the drivers that we'll look up, we'll see you running like 15th or so, and then at the end of the race, you're up there, fighting for a top 10 or something like that. You just kind of quietly run your own race. Any plans to do something different next week at Talladega to maybe to Cinderella your way into the playoffs?
We'll see. I'm sure we'll talk about it as a team, with the rest of Ghost Racing and John and Cam and Sam, and see what things may fold. That's a huge wild card. Love racing at Talladega, of course. Most people here do. So we'll see. Definitely look forward to it and just see what happens. I know I'm not the fastest guy in the group, but I definitely would love to play you a little bit of a spoiler, perhaps.
I certainly would love to see that happen. I mean, Charles, even when we get past Talladega, the playoffs, we were talking about the schedule during the race. It certainly looks like a tough one. Is there a race that maybe you have circled up that you're excited to perform at besides that of Talladega?
I'm not too sure. Probably Phoenix. The Indy Road Course is going to be, I'm sure, a fun experience. I think Vegas is kind of one that I do a little better than average. Definitely not looking forward to Indy Road Course, I don't think. But I think Talladega is really the big wild card. And then there's a few fun ones in between that if you can avoid some carnage and just kind of run your race, then see where you're at the end. That's kind of what I do.
Well, we can't wait to see how you perform next week at Talladega. But before we let you go, Charles, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, I just want to get a shout out to my teammates, Ghost Racing, mentioned them earlier. Cam, John Dart, Sam Siegel. He kind of had a similar race, finished 13th right behind me. We kind of drive very similarly there, and Shout out to the Lap Traffic Podcast for what they do in Freaky Fast. I tend to rewatch the races every week, and you guys do a great job. And just really enjoy just kind of spending my Tuesday night with you guys.
Well, it's a pleasure to call your races, Charles. Congratulations again on 12th place, and good luck on trying to get that win at Talladega next week.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. See y'all next week.
Well, that's going to be our spotlight driver, the number 30 machine of Charles Hugel, coming away with a 12th place finish. Will he be one of our Cinderella stories? We've certainly got a lot of different drivers that have an opportunity, but getting that breaking news, Trevor, of not having Sicchetti in the playoffs, and that is going to throw a complete wild card, because now that changes the whole entire framework of how the points are going to look like going into next week, because really it was that 12th to 13th, there was such a large gap that it was hard to really say, hey, there's a way to point yourself in. But from 13th down to around 18th in points, that is a difference of only 17 points. That turns next week into a complete mess to watch out for, especially with stage racing.
Oh yeah, I mean, next week, hands down, I think is going to be probably one of the most intense, maybe one of the most entertaining races that we've had all season long, Sam. And especially around that cutoff line. I mean, Medlin, Brian Wilson, Travis Dart, Ryan Lynch, Austin Call, Hugel, Siegel, Chavez. I mean, even Nick Gould, Jonathan Casepier. Sam, any one of those drivers, they win. And I mean, it completely changes who we thought was going to be safe in the playoffs, and creates a Cinderella story. I mean, definitely a race that you're not going to want to miss next Tuesday night.
It's certainly for Andrew Medlin. He's got to be happy on finishing third. And let's see where the rest of the drivers finished out here tonight, as here is your unofficial results. Ross Statham with the victory, his second of the season. Zach Hall second. Andrew Medlin, now with that news, this is a massive third place finish for himself, bumping up in positioning and points. John Dart going to be in fourth. Nick Holland fifth. Travis Dart in sixth. He's going to be one of those drivers really hunting to try to point his way in potentially next week. Cole Sicchetti, 7th place finish for the 42. Christopher Wade, 8th. 9th goes to Cameron Sarton. And Will Bustler finishing out our top 10.
I mean, you look down. I mean, Austin Call going to be in a must-win scenario next week. Finishes in 11th. Charles Hugel, who we just talked to, in 12th. Same situation, along with his teammate Sam Siegel in 13th. Kyle Carpenter, Sam, I mean, needed a good run here tonight to keep that points lead that he had over Andrew Medlin. It finishes 15th, so that points lead that he had there gets dwindled down. But with the news of Cole Sicchetti not making it, puts him in a little bit of a safer situation going into next week. And you look further on down, I mean, Ryan Lynch down there in 18th, Jonathan Casepier 19th. Jonathan Woods had a good run there for a little while. Gets caught up in a couple of incidents, or has a couple of incidents down there in 21st. Same thing with Chris Stitz. Saw him drive through the field on fresh tires all the way down there in 20th. And then Ken Campbell down there in 22nd. Philip Chavez both had on-track incidents tonight that saw them with blown motors and multiple laps down there in 22nd and 23rd.
I think Ken Campbell, one of those drivers who needs to get the monkey off his back. He's had such bad luck that continues on tonight. Will that change heading into next week? Because like we heard from Andrew Medlin, it is not 100% security that he's going into. He might now be bumped into that 12th in points position heading into next week, with that of Cole Sicchetti no longer going to be racing for the playoffs. But his position now is even in a bigger threat, because he's one of the drivers that's going to be crossing his fingers and hoping that he's got enough points, and one of the drivers behind him doesn't get a win. Certainly a lot of drama and flair, and we can't wait to give you the coverage of that next week at Talladega. But for us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we've got more coverage throughout the week. Tomorrow night, it is for that of the Wicked Racing League. Head to Michigan. It's a cutoff race. Who's moving on in the playoffs? You'll have to find out tomorrow night on Wednesday. With that is Zach Hall and Brandon Colley giving you the call there. Then on Thursday, it's going to be seeing the start of the playoffs. Stars and Stripes ARCA Throwback Season is ready to head to Charlotte as the drivers get themselves set up for how to begin and moving on with the race 16 of the season. Then we take a break on Friday. Saturday rolls around, and it's WSSR Roval action for those next gen cup machines as they're on their final charge of who's making the playoffs. Then we're right back on Monday to start the week off with the ISRC Truck Series, and then we're right back here. Talladega, who's in, who's out, and Trevor, it certainly is exciting, but we also have plenty of other exciting news. We have a June 10th, we have a special event. You got to hear that from Ross Tatum. Sadly, he won't be racing, but Trevor, you'll be racing in it. It's our Gamers Outreach 600. It's our own Coca-Cola 600 event. We're taking the Gen 4 Cup cars to that of Charlotte for 400 laps, 600 miles, and it certainly is going to be a good one.
Yeah, certainly going to be a great race. Going to be a grueling race in those Gen 4 Cup cars. Going to be definitely a workout. Looking forward to taking part in that event. I stole Ross's numbers, so thankfully he's not going to be there because I submitted for the 21. So thank you, Ross, for not showing up. So maybe I can get my number. But definitely going to be a fun event. Can't wait to take part in that and then go back and rewatch and listen to the call. And hopefully, Sam, I got something for those guys and can put on a show and do the broadcasters proud.
And we're hoping for it. It's going to be myself and Zach Hall up in the booth for that long grueler, and as well, Robert Moyer Jr., as always, running production. If you'd like to be a part of our Gamer Outreach 600, in the chat is a link to our community Discord that has our events. Go down to the charity event tab where you can find all your information on how to donate or to be a racer on how much you're supposed to donate, which I believe is $5 to donate. There is a little bit of a disclaimer on the amount restriction-wise on your iRating to be racing, but that's just a small number that we're trying to have the best racers possible to give you the best action here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We love it if you all can be a part of that awesome event, but for tonight, thank you so much for joining with us for the penultimate race of the regular season for the Full Send Racing Series. For myself, Sam Dyer, for that of Trevor Earhart, as well as Robert Moyer Jr. and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us here tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow on our next Freaky Fast broadcast.